Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while. But the Woolly Budget podcast is back. Hello. I do have a reason for not having spoken to you in so long. And it doesn't sound like a reason at first, but, you know, bear with me. I broke my foot in November. It was an incredibly undramatic incident. I just rolled it on an uneven paving stone. And yeah, absolutely trashed it, broke it, did some ligament damage. It was great fun. But what that meant is that my husband ended up working from home for about 2 and a bit months whilst my foot healed, because we have 2 small children. They go to school and need picking up and, you know, looking after and things like that. And turns out chasing 2 young boys with a broken foot, quite hard work. So anyway, he was home, which meant I couldn't record a podcast because, God love him, he's a very loud man. He's a very loud man who does a lot of conference calls. And so at any given point in the day, there was a background of pacing and loud business speak in the background, which I thought you probably wouldn't appreciate as podcast viewers. But he is back to the office. I am back on the sofa. I am wearing a lipstick I instantly regret. And I have many a thing to show you. So shall we crack on? So I've got quite a lot of stuff to show you. So I'm going to kick straight off with this, the jumper I am wearing, which is Chuck It's On. So called because I designed it as a jumper that you can just chuck on. Chuck-onable was like my winter aesthetic. I just wanted things that I could just throw on and they would be comfy and good, and, you know, this fits the bill. The pattern came out last month. I think it's February as I'm recording this, yes. The pattern came out in January and it is, as you can see, a raglan jumper. It is 1 strand of this base colour, a 4-ply held with alternating strands of mohair to make the kind of checked pattern on it. And yeah, this pattern it's all slit stitches, so it's a lot easier than it looks. And I have been pretty much living in this pink one this summer. It's not summer, it's winter. Because it is, as the name suggests, incredibly chuck-onable. So if I lean back, you can see it's got bust darts here so that it, you know, fits nicely the whole way around. And I also took a lot of time over the raglan grading, because raglans as a designer are one of those sort of deceptively tricksy things. So you can get some raglan patterns that just go, oh, I'll just increase, you know, 1 stitch every other row until I get to my full stitch count, which works great in maybe 1 size from the size range, but not so good for the rest of it, because especially as you get into the larger sizes, you will find that if you keep doing that, just increasing every other row, you will end up with an armhole that is like down here. You will also end up with a sleeve that is about 3 times the size of the sleeve you actually want. Raglans can also be a bit rubbish at the other end of the scale if they're not done carefully, because for like size 1 or so, where you have a smaller stitch count for the body, but you still need, you know, to get an arm in the sleeve, you can end up in a situation where you increase to get your sleeve to the right size, but the body's too big. Or the body is the right size, but the sleeve is too small. You see, there are traps that you can fall into. And there is a way around these traps, thankfully, which is what Chuck uses, and it is called a compound raglan, which sounds really, really fancy, but it's actually very straightforward. It just means that the rate of increases changes as you're going through the yoke. So you're not always increasing 1 stitch each side of this seam, you know, particularly down here, and particularly as you get into the larger sizes, to get around that curve of the armpit and increase, that can be increasing maybe every other row on the body, but every 4th row on the sleeve, or every row on the body and every other row on the sleeve, or whatever. There are all sorts of combinations that happen, which mean that it fits, and you end up with a sleeve that is the right size, an armhole that's the right depth, a body that's the right depth. the good news is I've done all that maths. I have done it all. And it is very carefully written out in the pattern so that you can just follow your size instructions. Anyway, as I said, I have been living in chuck. The mohair full ply combination, it's deceptively warm. The fuzz in the mohair, it really traps the air in and keeps you nice and cozy. I have in fact just done the school run, just in this and a t-shirt and jeans, which went well. But I do also know that mohair is not for everyone. So I am knitting another sample of chuck, which also shows different colour combinations. So this I have been referring to on Instagram as no fluff chuck, and it kind of shows off more than the sort of, you know, tonal version, how the colours and everything come into play. So this is a main colour of Sadner's Garn Sunday. This is shade 1012, I believe, which, you know, is the collar, the raglan seams. They're not really seams because this is knitted top down. You've also got your side seams. Whoops, that's just got a bit caught up there. Your side seams down here are just the main colour, and then the bottom hem. And then I am, as my contrast colour yarns, alternating, holding this and this. They are both Filcolana Alva, which is a lace weight alpaca yarn. So, you know, it's not fluffy. It is soft. I mean, I was going to say soft as a kitten. Everyone always says soft as a kitten. Whatever. It's beautifully, gorgeously soft anyway. This is curry. This is bright cobalt, however you say it. The end result is looking like this, which is, as a fabric, the softest, coziest, most beautiful thing of all time. And yeah, you can see there the effect of just holding the different lace weights with it. So you've got a slight marl, you've got a slight check. I find it personally really enjoyable. And holding this up, you can also see, it's all curly because I've not blocked it, obviously, because it hasn't got a sleeve. The effect of the bust darts, where this front bit is longer than the back. So the bust darts, they add the length to the front of the jumper, which, you know, makes up for the fact that the front has to travel further because it has to go over your boobs if you have boobs, and keeps it sitting level all the way around. Because the bust darts have to be worked in the slip stitch pattern, you can see they're sort of going on along there is the line of where the bust dart is. Within the pattern, I have actually written out 3 separate sizes of bust darts, which means 3 different amounts of length you can add. Normally I say bust darts are quite easy to alter yourself, and that is true, but you have to make sure when you're working in a pattern that you start working the short rows for your bust darts and finish, which is like this bit here, and finish over here at the same point in your sort of overall pattern. So that is what I have done there and worked that out for you. If you want to know more about bust darts and what they are and what they do, I have got a video talking about bust adjustments and things, because I put 2 different types of bust adjustments in my patterns. I put these horizontal bust darts here, and in some of my patterns I also have width-based adjustments which add more width to the front, so you can adjust. That got a bit big fish little fish cardboard box. You can adjust in different dimensions. I haven't got a width-based adjustment in chuck because chuck is designed to have a bit more ease in it. I say in the pattern instructions to measure your upper chest, which is up here, and pick a size based on that. And then, so what's happened here is my boobs have just eaten up some of the extra ease that's in there, and then the rest of the sweater fits me. But yes, that is chuck. I am also hosting, I should say, a knit along for Chuck It's On Instagram and on my Discord channel with prizes. I don't know what the jazz hands were. Prizes felt like it should have jazz hands. So it's very, very low stress, low commitment. It's running till mid-April-ish. You don't have to finish your chuck to be eligible for a prize. You just have to, you know, get past the folded collar and do a bit of this, basically. And everyone who takes part in the knit along will be entered into a draw to win a £25 tangled yarn voucher, and they do ship worldwide, so that is, it means, you know, people worldwide can enter. A set of stitch markers from Adventures in Yarncraft, or a lovely scented candle from Skein and the Stitch. So yes, if you want to join in with that, then either comment below and I can give you more info, or I will put the link for my Discord server. If you join that, you can get in on the knit along, or just, you know, post on Instagram with the hashtag #ChuckItOnKAL. And there you go, job's a good one. Right, the next thing I have to show you is this. The Corday cowl, which came out a couple of weeks ago. It is a sort of bandana cowl, shawlette, whatever you want to call it. Little thingy-doodle with some of the most amazing texture you'll ever see. This is all half brioche, there we go, stitch with a little bit of simple cabling in it. Pearl brioche border. So the way this is constructed is you start here with a garter tab and you knit out for this central panel like you would for a triangle shawl. Then you join it in the round back here and knit the border in the round, and what that gets you is this. So you can just chuck it on, tuck yourself in. I love this shape because I am terrible at doing coats up. I don't know why. It's not a difficult life skill to have, but I often find that I will just end up with this bit of my body a little bit chilsome. And yeah, it works for covering that up. It's not got the bulk at the back of the neck. And oh my God, it's so cozy. So I used Tundra from the Fibre Company for this. They very kindly provided yarn support for it. Tundra is a chunky weight. It is merino, baby alpaca and silk. And oh my God, it's like the yarn equivalent of a spa day. It's just really luxurious and lovely, and oh, yes. It's also got cracking stitch definition. I mean, look at that. I went for that combo because, you know, a cowl, you're going to be tucked up under your chin. You want it to be nice and cozy and snug. And even though I'm not often a chunky yarn kind of girl, I mean, I actually, in my beginner's workshops, often warn against doing too much chunky stuff early on because, you know, reasons. I've got a whole blog about that. I'll link it below if you want to know. You know, there's a time and a place for everything in knitting, isn't there? And a chunky brioche cabled cowl is pretty much as cozy as it can possibly get. And yes, chunky, really fast. Who knew? Who knew? That is groundbreaking news, I'm sure you will agree. This uses about 2 skeins, just under. So one of my testers did a beautiful version where she did this main section here in one colour and then switched to another one for the edge, which was lovely. And yeah, I've just been wearing this around the house. I mean, I don't go out much, so it's just nice and cozy to have on. I'm not sure I've said cozy enough. Cozy and also soft. Those appear to be the words for today's podcast. While we're sticking on the cozy theme, should we have a look at my Advent project? I know it's February. I know Advent is long gone. I know it's actually not that long till Easter, which is a bit alarming. Easter is very early this year. But this is the beginning of my Advent project. So as you can see, it is a mitered square blanket. It's going to be bigger, obviously, because, you know, this is kind of baby blanket size at the moment. I got the Camel's Yarn Advent in Hannah's non-superwash base, and oh my God. I know that there can be a bit of like, oh, why do people buy Advents? What do you do with them? They just sort of collect. Like, I totally get it. A mitered square blanket is a blooming brilliant thing to do with a yarn Advent, because look at it. My 4-year-old was actually quite helpful in the planning of this, because I was originally, as you can see, these first two corners here, I was going to sort of follow the fade a bit. He got into the advent on about the 3rd of December and he just opened it all. He just opened it all. He was trying so hard not to open his own advent calendar. I told him not to open his one. I forgot to tell him not to open mine. So there we go. But I'm quite glad he did, because that meant that then I could just completely haphazard at random put things through. So I also got the Christmas Day skein, which, you know, is, I think I've got a couple of squares. I think this is the extra Christmas Day skein here. So I've got a couple of squares of that in here, but mostly this is just sort of, I think I've got every colour in here once and maybe one or two twice. And yes, I love it. I have got a full blog post. I'm talking a lot about blog posts today, saying exactly how to do this. How to, you know, how many stitches to cast on, how to join the squares in different places, you know, all of that malarkey. If you have scraps and bits and bobs left over, I thoroughly recommend doing one of these. They're just a real joy. And have I also mentioned cozy and soft? So we are now moving on to things that are coming soon. And by soon, I mean, as I record this in 2 days, the Jimmigan. I can't remember if the Jimmigan is featured on this podcast before, but here it is. On the days where I've not been wearing Chuck, I have been wearing the Jimmigan. So this I knitted in Isle by World of Wool. Sorry, my brain just went blank there. And you can see it's got a bit bobbly in places. But, you know, it's had a lot of wear so far this winter. I actually finished knitting this in about September. So I'm just picking some bubbles off now. So it has been in circulation for a good, however many months that is. I'm going to say 4 or 5 months. And yeah, you got a bit of an underarm bubble there, but I'm going to take those off. A little debubble and it will be good as new again, I think. Isle is a non-superwash and it is also a worsted spun yarn, which is why it is a little bit bobbling off, you know? The friction just kind of makes those little bubbles appear. But generally speaking, I think it is holding up pretty darn well. I wore this a lot last week. We were on holiday for half term up in Tynemouth in the north of England, and it was a little bit damp, but not terrible. My raincoat is quite thin. I put this on underneath. Lovely and cozy. It's also, I really like an Aran weight cardigan for sort of spring, autumn time. You know, when it's, you don't need a full big coat, but like it's a little bit too chilly still for just like a denim jacket. Cardi. Yeah, very wearable, chuck-onable, probably also soft and cozy. Anyway, the colour work on this is much like on Chuck. It's mosaic knitting, which is all slipped stitches. So I know that colourwork cardigans, you can kind of hear those words and go, oh Christ, I'm going to have to steek it. No, you do not have to steek this, because the way it's worked is you are using one colour at a time. So you knit with your contrast colour, then you slip a stitch, then you knit with your contrast colour, then you slip a stitch. And that slipping the stitches pulls them across your contrast and creates that colourworky look. It means that when you're going back the other way, if I show you the inside here, no floats, no faff, no anything. Especially actually on this, because these are garter stitch ridges in the contrast colour. You're knitting and slipping again. So it's gloriously straightforward. I have also in Chuck, I did an Instagram post about this yesterday. I have written it so that you cast on here at the bottom of the neckband. And if I show you on the inside, I have picked up the neckband after I've knitted the cardigan. And the reason for doing that is that it just gives a little bit more stability to that neckband edge. In a cardigan, you've got a lot of weight hanging off that neckband because you've got the button bands and the whole front, and it can very easily stretch down. that kind of helps counteract that a little bit, which is quite handy. Because of that tendency to stretch down, I haven't put the horizontal bust darts in this one. I personally find that my cardigans, especially circular yoked cardigans, which this one is, will just sort of drop naturally and hang a bit lower at the front. The horizontal bust darts would just kind of accentuate that here. And so I've left them out, but we do have a full bust adjustment. So once you get down to sort of this point in the front of it, after you've finished all of your increase rows, there are some optional extra increases you can chuck in before the colour work, which sit just on the front and allow you to add either 2 or 4, I forgot how to do 4 with my fingers there, inches just on the front of it. And then they are decreased out again, lower down. So what this means is that it is a cardigan that you can actually do up over your bust. Crazy talk, I know. I admittedly do not do it up over my bust because I very, very rarely do up cardigans, so I haven't actually sewn any buttons on this yet. But, you know, if you're the kind of person who does your cardies up, this one will do it. Yes, it is going to be out on Wednesday the 21st of February. It is available for pre-order at the moment anyway. So I have one more imminent pattern to share, and then I will talk about some of the things I am kind of working on at the moment, and also like equipment and things. This is the Cynthia sweater, which I did mention last time because it was in Knit Now magazine. The version that was in Knit Now magazine was knitted in Rowan felted tweed. That has since come back to me and then gone off to my friend, who hopefully is enjoying it in her wardrobe. I have now knitted up a second sample for myself, which is obviously in this amazing bright green. It is knitted in Filcolana again. I've been experimenting with Filcolana a bit. This is Perilla. So I have in general been pretty impressed with the Filcolana yarns actually. For like natural fibre yarns, they're really like, you know, they're fairly affordable. So for the no fluff chuck that I showed you earlier, that uses, or will use when I finished it, 3 balls each of the Alva, the lace weight alpaca. And from memory, I think my order for those, including postage, was about 20 quid. So that is not bad. The Perilla, so this colour is spruce green. I just went back and checked. It's £4.50 a ball. And I think I have used 8 or 9 balls on this. I can't remember off the top of my head. I need to weigh it and see. But that's like, you know, that's less than 45 quid for a 100% wool jumper. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, I would argue. And yeah, I really enjoyed the stitch definition on it. It was really nice to knit with. It's very soft. In terms of the actual design and construction of this one, so it is knitted bottom up. So you start with a big cast on there. I would always recommend, if you are doing a big old cast on and you need to join in the round and you don't want to twist it, knit the first few rows flat, then join it. That will help. Then it is worked in the round up to the armpits, fronts and backs, worked, short row shaping for the shoulders, and then you pick up the sleeves and go. It is a drop shoulder jumper. I have done it as a modified drop shoulder. So in the smaller sizes, you have a little bit of a cast on at the underarm here. In the larger sizes, you have a cast off, which means that the drop hits at about the same point on all the sizes, because if you just do a straight up, I'm talking a lot about the issues you can have with grading and constructions today. If you just do ye olde rectangles, then you can end up with like your smaller sizes have the shoulder up here and your larger, like, no, we don't want that. I also have a little bit proven myself wrong with this one, which I'm quite proud of. I used to say, when I do my Knits That Fit Your Tits online workshop, that it is really hard to adjust, ooh, what have I done with my hair, all over cabled patterns. Ha ha! I was wrong. This has got a bust adjustment in it. It is difficult to see on this side, but it's I've added about 3 inches just over the bust to the front. And I have also done sneaky horizontal bust darts here. So they're not adding a huge amount because, you know, in terms of length, because, you know, I've got to write this across 9 sizes, but you can see here that little side garter stitch panel changes direction a bit. You're adding about, you know, 2 inches or so there. And then if I turn this inside out, you'll be able to see the bust adjustment a little bit better, because it is all worked in the reverse stocking stitch between the cables. So, yes, that's the front. Sorry, I was just confusing myself there. If you look here, you can see down here, that's 2 stitches. Then it goes up to 3, then 4, and then it goes back down again. So that is done in every size across the range. You can, if you choose, do those increases and add a bit more to those reverse stocking stitch sections to get yourself some extra room over the bust. Because this has only got about sort of 4 inches or so of ease in it. And so, you know, if you want it to fit you nicely, you can do those. It also, when you look at it, has quite sharp short rows on the shoulder, because the actual shoulder in your jumper sits sort of in the middle of this cable here. So all of this is actually hanging off your arm. So that means it sits nicely in the wearing. And it's got a bit of a crop shape and a bit of a balloony sleeve. I really love this one. I really love it. I would say between this and Chuck, they are probably my 2 favourite things. This will be coming out probably mid-March. Rights revert to me at the start of March. I just need to put some final changes to the pattern. Because it is a sport weight, it's actually quite a lot lighter than a lot of your classic cabled jumpers. So I think I'm going to be wearing this bad boy through the spring. I can even see myself throwing it over some summer dresses, like for evenings, or let's be honest, for the English summer. But yeah, it's coming soon. So should we look at some actual summer stuff? This is a cardigan that needs a name. So if you have any ideas on a name, please let me know. You may not be able to tell so clearly from, you know, the fact that my hair is bleached to pieces. I'm very ginger. And as such, I have ginger skin. Look at all those freckles. I burn like there is no tomorrow. And so in the summer, I will often find that I will be wearing a nice like sundress thing. I need something to cover my shoulders and things so I don't burn, but I don't want to be too warm. That is why we have this guy. Yeah, no name, but this is a little cropped summer cardigan with a round neck, because, you know, you've got to cover up for the sunburn. It's got 2x1 rib detailing on the hem. It's got dropped shoulders, got the rib detailing at the top there, a little statement 3-needle bind off, and then these slightly flared sleeves. I have used BC Garn Alino for this, which is a cotton and linen mix. I really love linen as a summer yarn. It's just beautiful, but it can be a little bit to work with because it's very, can feel a bit like knitting with rope if you're not used to it. What I love about this is the cotton and the linen take the dye slightly differently. So it's got this slight marl to it, which is lovely. The Alino is a kind of heavy sport / DK weight. And yeah, I can see this getting a lot of wear. Hoping to get this written up in the next couple of weeks and get a test call out there. If you would like to receive the test call, then get on my mailing list, and that will be coming out shortly. I actually will sew buttons onto this one because I can also see myself wearing it kind of just as a top. You know, put a vest top underneath, chuck this over, lovely. So this is version number 2, which is just getting underway really. And I am using Isaga Trio 2 for it. It is a cotton, linen and lyocell blend, so another nice summery yarn, and it is a lighter weight but still in the sport kind of family going on. So this one is going to be shorter sleeved. It's going to have the full bust adjustment, and the intention is more to have this as that kind of top kind of cardigan, as you were, if you were. It is a nice yarn to work with. It's a little bit more on that sort of slightly ropey end than the BC Garn Alino, and as I said, it is also a finer yarn. But, you know, summer yarns always feel a little bit different when you are used to knitting with wool or, you know, animal fibres, because they don't have that elasticity and give in them. They just sort of, plant fibres, they just behave differently, which, you know, it's fine. That's what we're leaning into with this. We're leaning into the drape. We're leaning into the sort of big fluffy sleeves and things. Yes, this is obviously worked bottom up, as you can see, because that is the bottom. I also just wanted to talk a bit about these needles. These are the KnitPro Mindful needles, which are obviously metal, and I have got one of their swivel cables on here, so, you know. When these first came out, I was a bit like, oh, that's a bit of a gimmick, isn't it? They've, each one has got like a word written on it. So this one says create. Yeah, I was wrong again. I actually really love them. They are really enjoyably sharp. I like a sharp needle. I tend to knit my cables without a cable needle. So like that Cynthia, I didn't use a cable needle for that at all. That is a lot easier with a sharper needle. I also quite enjoy knitting lace. Again, easier with a sharper needle. Other than the Chagus, these are probably the sharpest ones I've encountered. You could definitely do yourself some damage with them. But yeah, I bought like just one pair of tips just to try them out, and one swivel cable just to try that out, because, you know, the swivel cable, it's, I thought, again, maybe a bit of a gimmick. No, it's good. You don't get yourself tangled up. You don't get weird kinks. It's much easier. And then I very nearly bought an interchangeable set of them because I enjoyed them so much. But then I actually stopped and thought about it and thought, well, the interchangeables start at a 3mm, then have a 3.54, 4.55, and then above that. As I said earlier, I don't knit much chunky, so I very rarely use above a 5mm needle. I also use a 3.75 quite a lot, and a 3.25, and those weren't in the set. So you might be able to see where I'm going here. What I ended up doing was I basically made my own set. So I bought everything, needle tips, everything from the 3mm to the 5mm, and I bought a couple of swivel cables, and yeah, these are now my default needles. So final project to show you is another summery one, and it is another one that is on some Mindful needles. This is a non-swivel cable, which is mildly annoying, but you know, these are the 3.5mm, which say breathe on them. Okay, we'll ignore that. This is, again, needs a name. It is just a silk summer tea, which I am imminently going to lose yarn chicken on. I had 3 balls of Knitting for Olive pure silk, which I was originally going to use for my Tallulah camisole last year, but then I decided that actually I wanted to have a pink one. Last year was quite a pink year. This year is shaping up to be quite a green year. So I have instead used it for this, which is a contiguous shouldered. So that's where you've got this sort of seam here, and you are increasing either side of those, and then when you get to the shoulder, you start doing the increases for the sleeves there. So it's all seamless, little short sleeved, quite loose, quite basic silk tee. I tried really hard to keep it really just simple and plain, but I couldn't resist doing just a little eyelet lace edging on the neckline and the sleeves, because you know, love it. This does, you can see it sort of in there as it's hanging without a bust to kind of even it out. You can see that I have put a bust adjustment in there, and the front here is also quite a lot lower than the back because I have done bust darts, which again you can kind of just see showing up along there a bit. Yes, I have done those things because I wanted to have just a plain t-shirt that would be a classic sort of t-shirt fit. So it is set in sleeves, so that will sit on my shoulder edges, but that will still have room for the boobs. The silk is a lovely yarn to wear. I know some people don't so much enjoy knitting with it because, again, it does not have a huge amount of give in it. It's just a bit more that summer yarn experience. And yes, this is obviously leaning into the drape, but this is all I have left. And that's not long enough. That's not long enough. I enjoy a game of how cropped is too cropped, but this is too cropped. I'm a little thrown, I have to say, by the colour of it. I know that, you know, Merc is quite popular. And actually, now I hold it up against me, like, it's a colour that does suit me quite well, but I'm not a particularly murky kind of lady. So, socks. I do enjoy knitting socks. I like knitting a sock, but then I always feel a bit like let down because quite often my knitted socks just end up, you know, by definition, they go on your feet go in your shoes. People do not see your feet once they are in your shoes. I decided to rectify this. Doc Martin Mary Janes. I bought these secondhand off Vinted because I looked at them on the website and I could not justify buying them new. But they're in very good nick, as you can see. I think somebody else bought them and then realised that they were going to eat their feet because Doc Martens are quite notoriously evil to break in. I am determined to do it though, because these will show off a knitted sock absolutely beautifully. Yes, I am already envisaging them with Cherylanders, which are my socks with the big ruffle. I think they'll be good with that, but I like the fact that you'll be able to see some of the sock down here as well. Expect to see these in some sock photos soon. With that, I am going to go and have another bucket of tea. Let's be honest, probably take this lipstick off and see if I can manage to get that t-shirt to a length that is acceptable, or if I do just need to buy more yarn. Yes, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, do comment below. I've already said about my mailing list, which is the place to be for discounts on things and test calls and various other bits and pieces. My Discord server is below, and in true YouTube style, like and subscribe. Yeah, really, I can't pull that off. Anyway, I shall see you soon.